Thank you all for being here. We're going to just take a little bit of time to sort of talk through the program. Any questions that you have along the way, please feel free to unmute yourself and just ask or throw it in the chat, and we're happy to answer them. And we'll have time at the end as well to talk through any questions that you might have. So let's go to the next slide, Maggie. We'll do some quick introductions. My name is Scott Ozorotsky, and I am the person in the Study Abroad office who helps coordinate this program on the back end, kind of all the logistical side of things. And I'm also the person to talk to if you've got questions about the application process as you're kind of working through all of that. And then Maggie and Elizabeth, why don't you each introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Margaret Workman. I'm in the Department of Environmental Science and Studies, and I will be the faculty program director for the program.
And I'm Elizabeth Hall. I am a program manager in the Study Abroad office, and I will be the staff professional on the program. So I will lead the global hour prior to departure.
Great. So in terms of these first year abroad programs, these are designed as programs that are available to first year students, and they are tied to the curriculum of the first year program. So most first year students in their first year have to take a focal point seminar class, which is LSP 112. This is a class that's offered in either winter or spring quarter. It's very similar to taking your Chicago quarter class, like the Discover or Explore class that happens in the fall. There are about 100 of them to choose from. You find a topic that's interesting to you and you sign up for it. The focal point seminar works the same way. There's about 100 that are offered between the winter and spring quarter, all different topics taught by faculty from across the university. And what we have done is we've added a study abroad component to 6 of these focal point seminars. So we have 6 of these first year abroad programs, of which the England program is one of them. The focal point seminars are basically courses where you look at a topic from multiple different disciplines. And your professor is going to talk a little bit more about the course as we move through the discussion here. But what will happen is you will take the course during the spring quarter, and you'll be enrolled in a focal point seminar just like all your other friends are, taking a normal class that's going to meet twice a week, learning about the topic. But then at the end of the class, basically what will happen is a few days after the end of the quarter, you'll all get on a plane, the whole class together, and you'll head over to London for about a week and a half to have the second piece of this experience. You do get an additional 2 credits for that. It's a study abroad course that's called LSP 250 that will be 2 credits also in the spring quarter. That's not a class that meets or has class sessions. That's basically your study abroad time. So while you are abroad, you're going to have some different assignments, participation, reflection journals, other types of assignments that you're going to do. And all of that is what goes towards your grade for that 2 credit course. So it's not a course that has additional class meetings anywhere. That is your actual time abroad. I'll mention as well, there are some students who don't need to take a focal point seminar. Honors students typically do not have to take a focal point seminar, but if you are an honors student, you will automatically get credit for either your scientific inquiry, or you can use this course as one of your honors approved electives. So we have tons of honors students who do the first year abroad programs. We've already got that set up. Some students from music, theater, and CDM oftentimes don't need to take the focal point seminar as well. If you are one of those students, you can also actually get experiential learning credit for this program instead. And so you'll just need to be in touch with me, and I'll register you in a way that you'll be able to use it towards your experiential learning credit. The program is also designed for first year students, but we do occasionally have some sophomores who may do the program. If you're a sophomore who was not able to take your focal point seminar in your first year, then you're eligible to apply for the program now. Or if you have already taken a focal point seminar but are interested in it, if we have space available, we will potentially open up spots to sophomores, especially this year, because due to the COVID situation, we weren't able to offer these programs last year for students that were first year students last year. So that's a little overview of the courses. And so, yeah, why don't you now take it away and talk about the program and more about the course.
So if you saw the flyer, you will see that we will be based in London, although we do go to several other cities around, and I'll talk about those. But you do get to stay right in the center of London and experience all of London has to offer. Here are some pictures that I took on my planning trip. I went to Chinatown and got one of the fish ice cream things that have a name I don't remember, but you can get the great food. There's great coffee and tea shops, obviously, and then of course the ever-present fish and chips that you really need to get there. But so these are the things that we will be doing during the week, and it's I think 10 days, but that includes the travel days. We leave Monday the 13th, and I'm pretty sure I changed the dates for 2022, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Monday after graduation ceremonies. We'll leave and get there in the morning. And so on Tuesday morning, we will arrive in London and have a guided vintage bus tour of London with a Thames River cruise and a ride on the London Eye. And I'll show you some pictures and talk more about it in the next few slides. And then on Wednesday, we'll go to Shrewsbury and get a guided tour of different Darwin sites. That is his birthplace.
Can you maybe, I know you're going to talk about the course later, but maybe give a super brief overview of the course topic that will help as you kind of explain this, and then you can explain it more later.
Okay, so this class, the focal point is really the point in time when Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species. And when this was during the Victorian era in England. And once he published this work, there was a big sort of debate between religion and science. And then it also spilled over sort of how you can use the idea of Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection for things like for social reform, specifically women's rights, racial theories, and other social justice issues like poverty and so on. So we will be looking at that point in time, Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species, from all of these different perspectives, from a religious perspective, from a scientific perspective, what did it mean for science? And then also what did it mean for these social issues like women's rights, racial theories, and other social justice things. And so we will explore that in all of these different sites. And different locations, we will talk a little bit about the different those different aspects of it. So on the day when we go to Shrewsbury, we will look at sort of how Darwin grew up. What was it like when he was growing up, and how would this lead to his to the theory and the implications for his theory, and how he wanted his ideas to be used. And then on Thursday, we will go to Cambridge, where Darwin went to school, and he did go to school to be a clergyman. So we'll look at that sort of from the the religious perspective and the struggle that he had with his religious upbringing and studying to become a minister. We will go to the Museum of Zoology, and they do have a Darwin Gardens at Cambridge at his college. And then we'll look at the Sedgwick Museum, and Sedgwick was his mentor when he was at school. And then in the evening, we will do some kind of special activity, something like the Jack the Ripper night tour, or some fun kind of activity. We'll have to see when we get closer what's available. And then on Friday, we will go to Oxford. And the good thing about this, we'll go to the Oxford Museum, which is gorgeous, and I'll show you a slide in a minute, but there are a lot of Harry Potter sites at Oxford. So if you are a fan of Harry Potter, we will get to go see the Great Hall, and also some places where like McGonagall takes them to the sorting room and so on. So we'll do that, and then we will have a group lunch in Oxford. And then on Saturday, we will go to the Natural History Museum and the National Portrait Gallery and look at some of his specimens, but then also some other specimens. One of the things we'll talk about are women scientists that Darwin was corresponded with. He corresponded with a lot of women scientists, which is kind of unusual for that time period. And there are some samples that some of the women scientists have collected, some fossils. So we'll look at those. And we will have a group dinner at this really beautiful one. I have a picture, a portrait restaurant that's on top of the National Portrait Gallery that has a beautiful view of the city. And then we'll go see a show, The Mousetrap, probably, which is the Agatha Christie mystery. And then Sunday, you have a free day that you can do what you want. On Monday, we will go into Kent, which is a little bit southern England, to Down House, and that's Darwin's home as an adult, where he was married and had his children. And we'll look at a lot of the struggles that he had there, especially with his children and his health, and maybe why those things were. Tuesday, we will go to, we'll stay in London and go to Westminster Abbey, where Darwin is buried, but we'll also see other things like the Changing of the Guard, Buckingham Palace. And then we will go to the Florence Nightingale Museum, because again, one of the things we talk about is women's rights and women in science specifically. And Florence Nightingale actually is part of the game that, well, you'll see that we play during the quarter. And so we'll go to her museum that talks a little bit more about her, and then we'll have a farewell dinner. And then we will leave on Wednesday, and we'll leave in the morning, and we'll make it back, that day on Wednesday. So just going over again, I did briefly talk about this. The first day, we'll just, sort of get acclimated to London, try and get over some of your jet lag. We'll keep you busy so you don't want to fall asleep. And we'll do, great tours of the city, a vintage double-deck bus tour, which is really amazing because everybody wants to ride in a double-deck bus. We'll take a boat ride along the Thames River, and then ride the London Eye, which is that Ferris wheel, the Ferris wheel there. And that's right on the river, overlooking, Westminster Abbey and Parliament there. So it's a really great first day. So we'll just jump right in and explore London. And then the next day, we'll go to Shrewsbury and we'll look at Darwin's upbringing and the things that influenced him to become, what he became in the end. That's a picture of Darwin's house where he was born, where he lived with his father and mother. His father was a doctor, and so he was, relatively well-to-do. They did come from the Wedgwood family. So if you've ever heard of Wedgwood China, he's from that family, and actually so is his wife. She's a Wedgwood also, and it's actually now a business, like I don't know if it's a tax company or something, but they did let us in to see his the room where he was born. They have a little plaque there, but I've worked with a volunteer docent from the city's tourism board, who is very, very knowledgeable. He's an expert in this field, and he has a great itinerary planned. He also got me to be a member of the Shrewsbury Historical Society, so I was able to go in, and this is Darwin. They have a first edition of Darwin's Origin of Species, and then the other one is his marriage license to, or his marriage document, the legal document to his wife. And the other thing is a statue. There's statues, like sculptures all over about Darwin, and you can see there's a little cafe called Darwin's Cafe. I had afternoon tea there. It's really a lot about Darwin, but not everything, but there is a lot about Darwin there. Thursday, the Museum of Zoology. If you've ever heard of Darwin, you probably know about Darwin's finches, about how, one of the main things that helped him come up with this idea, and they have Darwin's finches there at the museum, so we'll actually get to see those. He was also a big beetle collector, and he's well known for his beetles, and they have all of his samples here. So that's those are his actual sample boxes. It's a beautiful museum too. Here's his garden. So we'll take a stroll through his garden. They've got a statue and a little sitting area here. This is in sort of the court, the college that he was in. You know, Cambridge is made up of different sort of colleges, and he went to, I think it was Christ College. And so this is in their sort of courtyard area. And then we'll go to the Cambridge Sedgwick Museum. This focuses a lot on his trip of the voyage of the Beagle. And it was this experience really that had the major impact on him writing his theory on natural selection. And so it kind of takes you through his trip on the Beagle. They went all over the world and collected a lot of different samples. But like I said, Sedgwick was one of his mentors, and this was named after him. Yeah, and so Christchurch, the next day we'll go to Oxford. This is Christchurch Great Hall. So you can see this is the Great Hall there that the Harry Potter Great Hall was sort of framed from. And you can see it looks very similar to, a Harry Potter scene. They have the big tables there where students sit and eat. They have the portraits on the wall. Now they don't move like the ones in Harry Potter, but it's very, very similar to that. And actually we were the last group doing this tour before all of the college students were coming in for their lunch. And so they were all getting ready to be seated there. So it was all set for lunch. And then the picture on the left is that location where, Harry Potter and Ron go up, and Draco introduces himself to Harry Potter, and Harry Potter's like, yeah, I know who my friends are or whatever. And then McGonagall takes them to get sorted. They did that right at the top of the stairs. So there's so much architecture around there that's very Harry Potter inspired. So if you are a Harry Potter lover, this is a great day. And then this is the Oxford University Museum where we will go. And literally my jaw dropped when I walked into this place. You hear of things that are jaw dropping. This to me was a jaw dropping place. It was built during the Victorian era that I'm talking about, that the class is really built around, and you really get to see that the architecture there is very sort of Victorian. But one of the big things in our course, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but the course during the focal point quarter, we actually will play this role-playing game. And the idea is we have to decide whether or not to give Charles Darwin the Copley Medal, which is the biggest prize that the British Society gives to a scientist. And there was a big debate about this, and it actually occurred here in the Oxford University Museum. So we can kind of go and see, the room where it happened. And that's what we are going to be we'll actually get to see the actual location here. And then we'll go to the Natural History Museum, which is very beautiful. And it has a lot. Obviously this is not just about Darwin. You can see the whole museum. It's very beautiful. And then the portrait gallery. This was something that I added after I went on my planning trip, because we ended up here. And when I went inside the portrait gallery, I saw there were portraits of almost all the people that we were playing in our role-playing game. So I thought it would be fun to go and walk through and see portraits of the actual people that we are playing. But then there are also other amazing portraits. This is where the Queen has her official portrait, and there's an official portrait of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. But here's a picture of Elton John that I thought was great. So it's a very interesting place. And this is attached to the museum. Here's where we will have our dinner on Saturday at this portrait restaurant. This is up on the roof of the portrait gallery, and you can see, you kind of can see the London Eye in the background. So it's really a great view over the city. And then again, we'll go see a show. And this is what I'm hoping we'll get to go see, Agatha Christie's. It's the world's longest running play. And so that was the 39th year. So probably it's over 40 some years. I'm hoping they continue during COVID, but I don't know. And then Sunday's your free day. There's a couple things that you might want to do. You might want to go to the British Museum. You hear a lot about the British Museum. They have the Rosetta Stone there that you can see. The top one is the Harry Potter location. They have it's not right in London, but it's right outside of London, where they have like a lot of the sets and scenes and costumes and all kinds of things. I didn't get to go there the last time, but this is something I think I might do on the free day. But they also have good sports. So there's a big stadium right there. So, depending on what kind of sports events are going on during that time, maybe you want to go see sports, or just, go around the city and see other things. And then Monday, we'll go to Down House, which this is Darwin's home, and have a audio tour and go walk through the places where he walked while he was coming up with his ideas. This is where he wrote his book on the origin of species. And then Tuesday, we'll go see London Changing the Guard, Buckingham Palace there. This is, if you've never seen the Changing of the Guard, it's really amazing. And then go to Westminster Abbey, again, where he was born. And we'll talk about, whether or not he would be happy that he's buried here, in Westminster Abbey. So, and all of these days we'll have reflection questions, over what we saw that day, and we'll talk about things. And then I have some great activities for some of the museums called Goose Chase, where it's kind of a app scavenger hunt kind of thing, that you can see all of the main sites, but you can kind of do it on your own. And then the Florence Nightingale Museum. This is actually located in a hospital that's nearby Westminster Abbey. And we'll see how women were treated at this time period, especially when we go into the sciences.
Oop, did Margaret get frozen? I think she may have gotten frozen here for a second. Oh, okay. Well, let's give a second and see if she gets unfrozen here and comes back. That was right at the end of the time in London. So I'm gonna actually stop the screen share for a second. All right, and hold tight, and I'm gonna share my screen. All right, I'm hoping that she will be able to get back in. So, and then the final thing was the farewell dinner and at Pizza Express on Baker Street for that final night. So the next thing that she's going to talk about is the focal points on our class. And then I'm going to just tell you a little bit about the application process, and we'll take questions that you have. Elizabeth, before that, why don't you talk for a little bit for this class? Most of your class is learning about this topic, which your professor is going to talk about, but a handful of your class sessions are going to be preparing you all to study abroad, and Elizabeth is going to be the one who oversees all that. So why don't you just give a little bit of an overview of some of the things that will happen in those class sessions, Elizabeth?
Sure. So I'll be hosting the Global Hour sessions, and those will be sort of extra, if you will, on top of the academic meetings. And we'll go over things like the culture in London, just sort of diving more into history, culture, what you can expect. We'll talk about culture shock, sort of being able to take in what you're seeing in London and how does it compare to the United States, vice versa. We'll talk about what to pack. So all of those sort of logistical things as well that you'll need to be thinking about as we're getting closer to the departure date. So the global hour will kind of encompass a lot of logistical things and a lot of the cultural aspects of the program. So it's a way to prepare you from that point of view for the program, not just the academic aspects of it.
All right, great. Thank you, Elizabeth. Hello, welcome back.
Sorry, I got kicked out. I don't know what happened.
Oh, you were right at the end anyway. So Elizabeth
Yeah,
talked a little bit about global hour. And if you want to kind of, I've got the screen share now, I can advance. But if you want to start kind of talking about the class.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was just about to say, should I answer questions about the study abroad part or continue on? And then you kick me off. So the study abroad class, I think is a really fun class that students really enjoy because I take a pedagogical approach to teaching the class. One thing that we will do is we do this role-playing game and it's really student-centered. So the students run the classes. I sort of sit back and I become kind of what they call a game master, but I just kind of maybe facilitate what's going on. So the game book that we have, so our textbook outlines the historical situation. So it talks a little bit about, Darwin publishing his book and then what happened, after that. And then each person plays a role. And the role that you play helps sort of move along the discussion because it tells you what you need to do to play, like the things that you're supposed to bring up in the debates and so on. So it sort of encourages the discussion along. And then you try and win. And so depending on what your role is, you either are trying to get Darwin elected, give him the Copley Medal from the Royal Society, or maybe you're on the other side and you're trying to make sure he doesn't get the Copley Medal. So you need to persuade other people to vote, your way. Or maybe your goal is to get somebody else elected, like Florence Nightingale. So that's how Florence Nightingale sort of comes in.
Oh no, we may have more internet issues. Oh geez. All right, I have a feeling she's going to be back. All right, I'm going to skip ahead to a couple other slides and hopefully she's able to get back and talk a little bit more about the class. She had a couple more slides on that, but I'm just going to move ahead to some logistical things and we'll come back. She'll talk for a couple more minutes about the class. So the application deadline for this program is February 1st. So you've definitely still got some time if you have not started your application yet. Please don't wait until the last day of January to get everything submitted. The earlier you can get that process going, the better. All you have to do is go to the First Year Abroad England program page on our Study Abroad website. There's a little Apply Now button that you click and it just creates your little account. There are basically two things you need to submit your application. The first is the application questionnaire, which is just this pretty straightforward application that asks you a handful of questions about why you want to do the program, how it relates to your studies here at DePaul. And then we also require one online recommendation. That can either be from a DePaul professor or it can be from a high school teacher or counselor, knowing that a lot of you are brand new to DePaul. Oftentimes your Discover or Explore professor is somebody who is happy to write a recommendation for you, or if you have another one that can, that's great. But if not, feel free to reach out to somebody from high school. One important thing is they don't have to write you like a long recommendation letter. All you do is you put their email address in the application and then it sends a little online link for them to fill out to actually just answer a handful of questions. So welcome back. I
don't know what the problem is. I had to update Zoom right before I joined at the first thing. So I don't know if there's something with it. So I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Sorry.
I'm doing some of the logistic stuff and then we'll go back and finish the class.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So the online recommendation is pretty straightforward. You put in their email address and it generates a little online form for them to fill out. And then you'll do a brief interview with Maggie and Elizabeth, which is nothing that's high pressure. It's just usually done in small groups. It's just a chance for them to get to know you a little bit, just very, very informal. And then scholarship-wise, we do have scholarships available for these programs. You don't have to do any kind of separate scholarship application. You'll automatically be considered for a scholarship as long as you submit your application for the program by February 1st, which is the deadline. Sometimes we do extend the deadline for the program if we still have some spots available, but the scholarship deadline is never extended. So you must apply for the program by February 1st if you want to be considered for a scholarship. Scholarships are based on two things, basically your academic success and your financial need. So we work with the financial aid office to find out from the FAFSA what your financial situation is. And then we look at your transcript from DePaul or from high school. And based on that, students who have strongest grades and have a high financial need are the ones that are going to be able to get the biggest scholarship funding. And then we take our pool of scholarship money and try to work our way down through as many students as we are able to help. Some of those larger scholarships may cover almost the entire cost of the program. But even the smallest scholarships are still about $1,000, which is about a third of the cost of the program. And you'll find out if you're accepted to the program and if you got a scholarship and how much in sort of mid to late February, right around the same time. The cost of the program is just over $3,000, and it includes almost everything. It's your round trip flights, all your accommodations, it's about half of your meals, all the things you do, course activity, the activities, transportation, it's your international health and travel and accident insurance. There are some things it doesn't include. Primarily, it's extra food and snacks outside of those meals and then spending money for other things that you might need. But it is pretty comprehensive. And like I said, those scholarships range from $1,000 up to almost the full cost of the program. All right, we'll go back to the focal point seminar. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll last for the rest of this. So I think I was talking about the X-Men. So they're trying to get Darwin the award. And so your job is to talk about why he should get the award. And then it's based all on articles that we read, things that we talk about in class. So you will be bringing up all of the, the points why he should get that. And then there are a group of social reformers that we call indeterminates. Everybody else is sort of an indeterminate. So you don't have a specific way that you have to vote on the whether or not Darwin gets it. And so the A-men and the X-men are trying to convince you as a social reformer to vote for Charles Darwin. So it's really, an interesting sort of model for doing this. So you learn all of the material. You will be using the readings that we talk about as you're doing this sort of debate. And so this is sort of the schedule for the focal point. It will change a little bit because we'll need to incorporate some of the social, what do you call those? The
global hour.
Global hour, yeah, the global hour, which is not taken into account here. This is when I did it without the global hour. So, but that will be worked in. So we read on the origin of species, certain excerpts from that, and we will discuss that at the beginning. So there's writing assignments along with each of the readings. And then we read a natural theology part, and excerpts from that. It's all in the game book. And this is what students use to talk about why Darwin should not get the Copley Medal. And then there's also other religious texts that we'll read. And then there is a book about Charles Darwin called Charles Darwin on the Origin of Species. So you see most of this. The first part is we read the text, we discuss them first, and then after that, we sort of do gameplay. And so everybody, you can see the lead role. So you're assigned basically a lead role on specific days. And that's when you have to, talk about what's in your role sheet, what you need to bring up for these. And again, you're reading some, other articles and writing reflections on this also. And then at the end, we vote on whether or not Darwin should get the medal. Well, if he's nominated for the medal, maybe there's somebody else, maybe they nominate Florence Nightingale, and we'll vote on whether or not that person should get that. And then the last day it's called the anniversary meeting, and we just have a post-game analysis about what happened, what really happened in real life, because you may or may not follow what happened in real life. And then there is a short paper that's due.
All right. So just to kind of wrap up, if you haven't been on the website, make sure to check it out. There's a ton of information on there. My email is here, and also Professor Workman's email is there as well. If you have questions along the way about the application process or kind of logistical questions, I'm the one to reach out to. If you have questions about the course or the actual travel abroad, you can reach out to her. But yeah, what questions do any of you have about anything? We're happy to answer. You can unmute or just throw something in the chat.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would any other scholarships you've earned from school apply to the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you are in this class, basically the classes look like regular classes on your schedule. So you're going to do the 4-credit focal point seminar class, and then we're going to have you registered in that additional 2-credit class. So it'll be 6 total credits. As long as you don't go over 18 credits in your spring quarter, you don't have to pay any additional tuition. So, imagine you're registered in 3 other classes for 12 credits, and then you've got these 6 credits for 18. It's just a normal semester, a normal quarter of tuition pricing, no extra cost. The only additional cost is that $3,000 program fee that you're going to pay. And the scholarships, if you get some scholarship funding, would go to help pay that additional $3,000 program fee. Any scholarships you have towards your tuition and your normal cost of going to DePaul, that won't be any different. They all still apply in the same way.
All right,
Makes sense.
thank you. Yeah.
And then I have a question as well.
Yeah.
I saw on the flyer, I'm not sure if I read it right, but it said something about taking the honors 100 class, the rhetoric class.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a requirement to go, or is that just recommended?
Are you an honors student?
Yeah.
Okay. Before you, that's one of your required courses that you need for your honors, and you just need to take that by the time you go. So if you haven't taken that in fall, just make sure you register and take that either in winter or in spring quarter.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
And hopefully that will work with your schedule. It's usually one that you're taking in one of your first few quarters here at DePaul. So just make sure that you've taken it by, and it can be in spring quarter as well. So just make sure you either take it in winter or spring if you haven't.
Okay, thank you.
And for non-honor students, it would be the same for the WRD 103. Just make sure that you have taken it one of these quarters before you go.
And if they're an honors student, they should work with you about registering for this class in the right way, right?
Yeah, you actually won't need to do anything. What happens is I will send a list of all the students who are participating in the program to the honors advisors, and they're going to flag anybody who's an honors student, and they will contact you and make sure that they do the correct things in your degree progress to put it in the right place to knock out the requirement that works for you. So you won't have to do anything. I'll work with the honors advisors, and they'll talk to you about making sure to place the class appropriately. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're excited. If you haven't started your application yet, please get it going. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions. We'll also stick around for a couple minutes if you have another question you want to chat through. But we appreciate it, and have a nice weekend.